Hello, you're watching News 14 Carolina, your 24-hour local news channel only on Time Warner Cable. I'm Julie Fertig. Where were you at the time? What was going through your mind?
It was shocking.
Tonight it looks a lot more like a slushy slip and slide. It would be extremely difficult for a car to navigate its way through this mess.
A woman fights to keep her pet. Find out why after 10 years the bird is now considered a nuisance. But first, will the rain ever stop? Let's get details from meteorologist Doug Lindsay.
Wayne Memorial Highway to my left here is packed with this powdery mix of snow and ice. And as the temperatures continue to drop this evening, the conditions on the road could get even worse. Let me give you an idea of what drivers are dealing with here. This rock solid packed snow and ice, probably about a quarter inch. It's tough to get around, clearly. And while drinking on the street is against the law in North Carolina, enjoying a cold one here on the trolley pub is perfectly legal. Well, Johnny, some people tell us they've waited in line over an hour at some polling locations to cast their ballot and get an I voted sticker like this one. Here, we're just starting to see that after work rush arrive, but many say the wait is well worth it.
Legislation passed 2 years ago here at Virginia's General Assembly led to stricter regulations for abortion clinics approved this past spring. Now, opponents fear those regulations will restrict access to abortions, while supporters say they'll protect patient safety.
I'd like to go through your medical history with you.
Women's health care centers like this one in Falls Church offer gynecological care and abortion services to thousands of women in Virginia.
You had a pap smear back in August?
But a new law classifies the clinics as hospitals. Complying could cost millions, making it difficult for these clinics to stay open.
There is no pretty picture in my perspective of the alternatives if small independent providers have to abandon their care.
For example, one new regulation bans the use of multiple purpose rooms, meaning clinic owner Rosemary Cotting says to comply, she would have to find more space to store cleaning supplies and provide a changing facility.
So we'd have to have a separate laundry, we'd have to have a separate storage, and we'd have to have a separate janitor's closet. How does that increase safety for women? I don't know.
The regulations also include specific architectural guidelines for ambulatory surgical centers.
Operating rooms, 3.5 feet or 42 inches from the table to the wall. Hallways or patient corridors, 5 feet or 60 inches. Patient doorways must be 3 feet 10 inches or 34 inches.
There's a level of silliness involved in it all.
Jim Edmondson sits on Virginia's Board of Health and helped craft the new rules. He disagreed with board members over some of the recommendations and eventually opposed the majority's opinion.
You don't need awnings over the front doors and a certain number of parking spaces. But those are the kinds of things that are included in the rules, and they don't affect the health of the women being served.
Prior to 2012, Virginia did not inspect or regulate abortion clinics.
Both were cited for blood splatters.
Marcia Hurley is a registered nurse and a member of the pro-life movement. She obtained state inspection records of abortion clinics and found reasons for concern.
I was surprised by the basic things, the hand washing, the blood splatters, the expired medications.
Hurley says if there is an emergency, the new regulations could save a patient's life.
You do need to be able to move in a stretcher to get emergency equipment in there when things happen and when things go wrong.
This is one of the exam rooms.
Cotting and other abortion providers support the inspections and medical regulations, but say the physical requirements are costly and unessential.
$2 million renovation in a course of 1 year is an immense burden to a small business.
Cotting says her business does not generate enough revenue to pay for the required changes. In 2012, Falls Church provided just under 1,350 abortions. Women paid between $350 and $500 for the procedure, generating over $400,000. Cotting says the health center's annual revenue is just under $1 million, and they'd lose about 40% of their patients if they stopped providing abortions.
I don't know any business that could survive if they saw 40% less people.
The clinics have until late 2014 to comply with the new standards, and that's when we'll learn just how many facilities can remain open for business. Reporting in Richmond, Virginia, Julie Fertig, News 14 Carolina.
Hey! There's more hustle and bustle at Tom and JoJo parents' house than usual.
Did you see this is your new backpack?
They're getting Spike packed up for his first day of kindergarten, something they never thought possible a year ago.
The idea of leaving him for a full day is just, it was unimaginable a year ago.
Spike used to experience more than 4 dozen seizures a day.
At that point, we weren't even thinking about school. It was just, how can he survive the day-to-day?
Last fall, surgeons at the Cleveland Clinic removed a portion of his brain that formed abnormally. Since then, Spike hasn't had a single seizure.
This is the way we go to school, go to school, go to school.
The first day of school, he's going in pretty much like any other kid.
Just like the other 5-year-old, Spike wastes no time diving into the toys and showing off his counting skills.
2, 3, 4.
Spike's classmates here in North Carolina can never relate to his medical experience, but at a recent gathering in Cleveland, everyone could understand what he's been through. During the pediatric epilepsy reunion, Spike's family got a chance to share their appreciation with the medical team who worked on Spike.
It was a great opportunity to come back and see all of them and thank them for giving him his life back.
To have the whole family be able to move forward in a completely different way, there's nothing more gratifying than that.
This is the way we go to school so early in the morning.
With the future wide open for Spike, his parents remain forever grateful, knowing their son will grow up like any other kid. Julie Fertig, News 14 Carolina.
Play, sets up, throws it deep.
For decades, the Blue Devils have been chasing after their own team's benchmark.
Touchdown!
In this season, they tackled the all-time win record set some 70 years ago under Coach Wallace Wade.
They don't turn the ball over. They don't make mistakes. They play as a team. And that's what he preached every time up until the day he died.
Johnny Moore was Duke's assistant sports information director in the late 70s and worked very closely with Wade.
He was such a great man, and his stories were fun.
Wade's stories from the 1940s make for inspiring lessons about the last time Duke went 9-0.
They were one of the most powerful teams in the country. They were scoring 55 points in games.
Bringing the Blue Devils an invitation to the prestigious Rose Bowl.
They were all fired up to go out there and play in the game. Coach Wade really believed he had his best football team.
But on December 7th, 1941,
a date which will live in infamy.
Everything changed. The Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. The U.S. declared war on Japan. In fear of a Japanese invasion on the West Coast gripped our nation.
People on the West Coast, the generals, the people who ran things, didn't know if the Japanese were coming to the West Coast or not.
Battleship Maryland on fire and the Oklahoma has capsized.
Football was the last thing on anyone's mind.
They'd put a blackout on the West Coast and you couldn't hold the Rose Bowl. Oregon State's the other team in the Rose Bowl. They actually went down and begged the Rose Bowl to change their mind, but the Rose Bowl wouldn't do it. They just didn't want that big a crowd where the Japanese could come in and just bomb the stadium and kill thousands of people.
If you think how we were paralyzed as a nation after 9/11, this was much more dramatic.
Dan Hill's dad is a Duke Football Hall of Famer and was a recruiter for the 1941 squad.
Coach Wade was determined that we were not going to be paralyzed as a country, that we were going to continue with the plans that had been made and that bowl game was going to occur.
So he offered to host the game on the other side of the country in Durham, North Carolina. The Dukies had 2 weeks to prepare. Tickets sold out in 2 days. But when the game kicked off, even an umbrella wouldn't keep fans dry.
It's an awful day. Rainy, cold, dreary, the field was muddy.
Turnovers and interceptions cost the Devils the game. They lost 2016 to Oregon State.
Duke would have loved to have won the game, but it was really more important that the game be played in a way that would honor and respect the Rose Bowl.
The Rose Bowl can now celebrate its 100th anniversary this new year, thanks to the game that almost wasn't. In Durham, Julie Fertig, Time Warner Cable News. The state fair's bustling with activity on its final weekend in Raleigh, but those who witnessed Thursday night's accident are still shaken up.
You heard these loud noises that are not normal.
When something is slamming around the way that ride does, that's a recipe for disaster.
Less than an hour before the mishap, where authorities say the ride stopped and then restarted, Ken Verano was taking pictures of the ride that turns, twists, and flips passengers upside down. He noticed an operator could not get one of the ride's safety restraints to close.
And one of the guys just took the thing and just slammed it down. Now, whether he thought that made it lock or who knows, but they started the ride up again. They kept running that ride knowing that there was a problem.
Not long after, Joel Gilley was waiting for his girlfriend to get off another ride when he heard a loud noise coming from the vortex.
Heard, things hitting that floor hard, and, there was a couple different noises and things like that, and I looked, and people were running and screaming, and at that point, I saw someone laying there not moving, that kind of deal, and so I said, there's something wrong here.
Gilley called his friend, a firefighter on duty, and within a minute, his buddy was the first responder on the scene. Gilley saw the 5 injured people, an operator and 4 passengers, getting loaded onto stretchers.
After that, you have leftover ride tickets, and you're like, I think I'm going to pass on the rides for, after that.
As Verona snapped photos of paramedics rushing to the scene, he's relieved his daughter decided against riding the vortex less than 10 minutes before the accident.
Constantly. I mean, I live for my daughter, so, every time I hear that, and I keep going, text her back, make sure she's fine, and my wife is, she's fine, she's fine.
Now, officials with the Department of Labor say that they did not receive any reports last night that they're aware of saying that the Vortex ride was malfunctioning. And this is actually the first year that the Vortex was here at the State Fair. The last fair-related accident happened back in 2002. Reporting live from the State Fairgrounds, Julie Fertig, News 14 Carolina.
Department of Transportation crews gear up for the second day of salting and plowing the roads across Wayne County. Mike Anderson came from Caldwell County to assist.
We're trying to get traffic through safely. This is a challenge for us to maneuver around them.
Another challenge, the below freezing weather. Temps dropped so low Wednesday night, plows could not even get through the ice. So far, they've used more than 300 tons of salt and 25,000 gallons of brine.
This is an unusual storm. It's very cold. The ice is very fluffy, and it's packed down on the roads. It's very hard.
Dale Shoemate came from North Wilkesboro to help out with the snow removal efforts.
We help out in snow situations, hurricanes. If the governor calls it, we got to go.
Out on the roads, Dale and his team have to drop salt in the same area multiple times to soften up the ice. Then they can come through with the plows.
Well, it's a challenge because until the temperature rises and the salt can work, it's going to stay slick. When the salt works, then we'll start pushing.
The process takes time. Crews may not finish plowing through the main highways and interstates Thursday.
We're doing as best we can, as fast as we can.
Until they can finish clearing the roads, they urge everyone to be careful.
Safest bet to stay home if you can.
Let me give you an idea of what drivers are dealing with here. This rock solid packed snow and ice, probably about a 1/4 inch. It's tough to get around, clearly. DOT is hoping that these warm temperatures will help the situation and hopefully melt away some of this snow and ice. Reporting in Goldsboro, Julie Fertig, Time Warner Cable News. Levitt was 17 when he and another man, Demaro Atwater, kidnapped, robbed, and shot Carson multiple times. The defense plans to ask for a second-degree murder sentence, claiming teens have a different frame of mind than adults. The state says the original sentence should still stand. People across the state are mourning the loss of well-known whirligig artist Wallace Simpson. Simpson died Friday night at the age of 94 in his sleep. News 14 Carolina's Diana Bosch spoke with a close friend who says that even though his work was famous around the world, Simpson never thought of himself as an artist. Charges are now being filed in a fatal accident on I-95 Saturday morning. Authorities say Harold Feel fell asleep at the wheel of a truck carrying orange juice just before 4:30 a.m. and crashed just south of Smithfield in Johnston County. A passenger in the truck, 47-year-old John Clark, was killed. Feel's charged with careless and reckless driving and misdemeanor death by motor vehicle. No other vehicles were involved. Pauly Shore joining us now.
Nice to see
here
you.
In
Thanks for having
Raleigh.
me.
Absolutely.
For
sure. Rocking the shades inside, huh?
I'm going to get some southern barbecue. What do you think about that?
Sounds delicious, and especially in North Carolina, gotta have that barbecue. Why not?